I'll repeat.
Just a bit louder because they don't hear you. Like
So
you
yesterday,
can stand up.
Daniel was talking about serving and playing, and for me those two things are very much different, and I cannot see how serving is supposed to be fun and how it is supposed to help, I don't know, the community, because that's the way you talked about serving yesterday.
Yeah.
And if you could please form those thoughts a bit more.
Yeah. I mean, what does anyone else think on that? Just, I don't know.
I think
Serving in what way?
I think serving is important because it's, with the thousands of years we managed to live with serving, and our community civilization is about serving to the others, to the family, kids, maybe parkour community or other communities, I guess. I don't know.
I think that you were just trying to show us how, through a game, how we can achieve a better community and how we can help you. You weren't really comparing fun with serving. You were just trying to show us how serving, in the end of the day, is good for everyone through a game.
I think serving is actually a part of the fun, and then you can't actually see the fun aspect of serving until you actually endure for long enough. Do you know what I mean? Like, unless you actually serve for an extended period of time, you know, if you don't have faith in what you're serving in, then it's very rarely you'll see the fruitful outcome. But what I've come to realise is that when I channel my energy towards serving, towards whether it's part of the community or part of helping my mum and dad around the house, it actually makes me more efficient in the direction that I want to go in, but also having access to that joy and that energy on a constant basis rather than it being a limited experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So for me, when we were talking about that game yesterday, you've got the outer circle and the inside circle. The inside circle, they're playing the game. The outside circle are serving, yeah? The energy continues. It's not to say that you're always going to be serving. For me, that's how I kind of value life, as in the virtuousness of constant service towards other people, because I find that as I'm not about self and I'm about others, it's actually more rewarding and more fulfilling seeing someone be able to unlock something within themselves, or just not serving for anything in return, but just genuine like serving for the sake of doing whatever for other people. But like, I just find that like when we operate better as a community when we're about each other and not about ourselves, and I think serving is actually a way to break yourself out of that way of thinking. When you actively make an effort to serve, you're breaking away from the bondage of thinking about self, because in our bodies we always have a tendency to want to please our bodies, whether it's chocolate, whether it's money, whether it's this, whether it's that. The body desires things, but you must have mastery over your body. That could be with your diet, that could be with drinking water instead of Coke. Do you know what I mean? For instance, you drink a bottle of Coke, you desire it more because it gives you instant energy. But in the long run, it's bad for you, yeah. Where you don't desire water because you don't feel the effects of having water straight away. It's only about a week or a few days later that you actually feel the benefit. But at that point, you're unable to identify why you feel so good, yeah. It's only as you drink more and more and more water do you start to see the benefits and know, and how wisdom is knowing how to link why you're feeling good. It's because you've been drinking water. It's because you've been disciplining yourself. Every time you've had an opportunity to drink a bottle of Coke and a bottle of water, you've chosen water because you're thinking ahead. Do you know what I mean? So that it could even be the way you serve your own body. Do you know what I mean? It's the way you look after and steward your own body. It's not just about serving people, it's about serving yourself as well. And so for me, I think that like just in the long run, it has its benefits. Sometimes, what makes us different from kids is that kids always want to play. Whereas we become aware that there are consequences for our choices. Kids don't know the consequences until they, it's all experience for them. You know what I mean? I say that I've often said that like when you remove, we look at parkour, it's always about like breaking boundaries and overcoming obstacles and breaking out of prison and in the mind. You know what I mean? But then at the same time, wisdom, which separates man from child, is someone who stands there for long enough to ask why why that fence was put there in the first place. You know what I mean? Wisdom is being able to look at that fence and go, why was it put here? Because once you know why it's put here, then you can understand. Like when I was a kid, my father would set a parameter, like a ring around the area, my house, and he would say, okay, you go beyond this, and there's punishment, yeah. But I would always go beyond it, do you know what I mean? Because I was like, what's beyond the line? What's beyond the line? That curiosity, you know? And the crazy thing is, just a side note, my dad had like a really loud whistle, so you could hear it from miles away, and if you'd cross the line and he whistled, like he'd count to like 30, he knew that you were past the line. So as soon as you hear the whistle, you're like, shit, like freaking run, you know, like as quick as you can, you know. But for me, I learned a lot from my father. But growing up, I went into secondary school, and I've always been a kid who's always been asking questions from day one, like why are we here? What's the purpose of life? What's the meaning of this? What's this all about? You know. So when I was at school, I was always asking questions and never getting answers. Yeah. Or I wasn't satisfied with the answers because I didn't see the heart and the individual behind what they were saying, and it became clear that I'm not saying all teachers, but some teachers, especially the teachers I was being taught by, it became clear that what they were doing was not a passion, it was a job. You know, it was to get the money at the end of the day. So the answers they were giving me, I couldn't relate to because I was wanting to be 100% expressive. Yeah. So I could never get an answer from these guys. So I lost respect. I lost respect for the teachers and that kind of and that environment. How does that relate to the 100%? I guess I've lost my train of thought. I was going on to something, but yeah, you have to bear in mind there's a lot locked inside of me. Like there's a lot of questions, and depending on the questions you ask, you'll get some answers. But at the same time, I'm struggling with myself because I want to share these things with you, but I don't want my desire for you to know what I know to overshadow what is actually right for the space. Does that make sense? Because sometimes I can end up being, blah, 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 blah. So I have to be, I'm always being careful with what I say and how I say it. But basically, yeah, that's what I'm saying is that like, I didn't have any examples growing up other than my father. My father's a very physical man, very working man, doesn't speak, he just works. Partly to do with the fact that he's Spanish, he doesn't speak much English, but yeah, he's just a very hard-working man, he's just a very physical guy. So, you know, I'd go to school and I'd ask questions to teachers, never get answers from the elders there, so I would have a lack of respect. Then I'd come home and I'd do the same to my parents. The difference with my parents is that my dad, he wouldn't stand for it, but my mum, she would always show me love despite how much I put on her, how much I made her frustrated, how much my behaviour made her angry, or not angry but upset. She would never change the way she looked at me. She always saw me as this person that had massive potential. When I was at school, I would do the same thing, and then they would label me and make me out to be, you know, when I was dyslexic or ADHD, or had this, you know, all these different things, which made me dislike school even more. So for me, like, yeah, as I've gone through my journey, I've been on a quest to try and find, like, my people. I don't know if that makes sense, but like, I've never really felt like I belonged. You know, I always felt like I was the only one. So and this is before parkour, I used to go on the rooftops, and I used to try and take people with me, but I experienced this freedom in this jump, like a leap of faith across the roof gaps, and it was like, oh, this is amazing. You guys have all experienced it, you know, this freedom that comes from movement, and often we try and bring people along for the experience, but they just don't see it the way we see it. And so we're left to try and make them experience it. Like, come on, do the jump, do the jump. But at the end of the day, unless they choose to do it for themselves, it's not the same, you know? So I was always the only person in my village that was feeling this freedom, yeah? And so often I would spend time alone on the rooftops. You know, life was baffling. I had a lot of questions, so I'd often just spend hours just pondering over life, you know what I mean? And I'd just be like questioning what's this all about, you know, what are all these people, busy people just going to work, you know, no one's looking up, the only people who are looking up are the children, you know what I mean? Like the only people who would see you on the rooftops were the kids, because the only people who were paying attention, everyone else was just busy, just, do you know what I mean? And so I just realised that I was alone, even though I had family, and even though I had my friends, I felt like I was the only one, like asking what we're here for, what's this all about, you know, why, you know, these things. So, you know, movement was because I struggled in school to describe with words what I could only express through movements. That's why I did movements. Not because I was like, yeah, parkour, flips and stuff. It was just like, I can use this. I'm attracted to this, but now I know the reason why I was attracted to it is because I could express with movement what I couldn't express with words. Yeah. So the teachers always asked me to give an explanation for my behavior, but I could never give a good answer. Yeah, because no kid can be expected to give a reason for their behavior, you know, because they're just children, you know. So that was difficult for me, but yeah, I think for me just a lot of it just led on to like a lot of that time spent on the roof got me to where I am today, I guess. But for me, like it's always been looking for those warriors, like, because for me I've always wanted to be 100% in what I do with my heart, 100% open and experiencing life. But at school I was conditioned and told, oh, you have to take life seriously, you have to get a job, and it was all fear, you know. So I was like, this is not for me, because climbing trees makes more sense to me than being here and learning maths and English, you know. So I did what I felt was right. I took a leap of faith and I followed my heart, yeah. And so that journey took me to looking for more people in the world. And then I saw the Yamakasi and I was like, whoa, these guys are men, actual men. I'm a boy and these are men and they're doing what I'm, and so that gave me hope to continue going at what I wanted to do. But then as I've been traveling through my life over the past 15 years now in movement, it's been the past 8 years that I've started to find my people who are of the same heart as me, people who are 100% open all the time, whether they're moving or they're not moving. Everything they do is just 100%. So whether it's washing the dishes, they're 100%. Whether it's playing, they're 100%. Everything they appreciate, and they have joy in every essence of every moment. You know what I mean? And so I'll give an example, because I want to get to like the whole idea. I told you about the ring that my father would create around the house, and he would say to me, don't go beyond this. I was in this really depressed state. I was crying, I was baffled. I'd just watched The Matrix. I was a bit confused about life. I was like, where are you, Neo? You know, where's Neo, you know? So I was a little bit kind of confused. That kind of messed with my brain a little bit. And yeah, I remember I went home that night in a very sad mood, and something really strange happened. I fell asleep, and in my dream I woke up, and I was in my bed. I woke up in my bed, but I felt opposite to what I felt when I went to sleep. When I went to sleep, I was very sad, upset. When I woke up in my dream, I was full of hope, full of joy, and something was telling me, go back to the building that you came from in your town. So I didn't know why, but I was like, okay, I feel this good energy, so I'll go. So as I started walking, each step I started taking, I started to get a glimpse of why I was going to this building. And as I reached the ladder at the bottom of the building, as soon as I touched the ladder, I knew that everyone who was like me was going to be at the top of that roof watching the sunrise. Yeah. And I didn't have to see them to believe. I just knew that I was surrounded by people that were like me. And this is when I was 16, so I'm climbing this ladder, and then I remember I was filled with so much joy, and then I looked and I could just see silhouettes of people. Silhouettes. I couldn't see their faces. Maybe people I'm still yet to meet. Maybe people I've already met. But I believe that these were my people. Yeah. And then that was when I was 16 years old. So for 10 years, that dream I always remember that dream, but I don't know why. Yeah. And then just 2 years ago, that dream happened in reality. It's happened many times ever since that 10 years ago. It's been happening continuously the past 2 years. It's strange, because back then I didn't know who these people were, but now I realize that I was looking for people who were not dependent on each other, who were not inspired by just each other, but who were how do I say it? They were one in God, basically. That's the way I describe it, yeah? God can be the universe, energy, whatever you want to call it. For me, it's Christ. But these people were so passionate about life and waking to meet God that they weren't dependent on me. So the people I used to bring with me to do the jumps, they were dependent on me. Do you know what I mean? I would tell them to jump, da-da-da-da. But the reality was, it's in this dream, and I realized this past 2 years, is that everyone that was on that roof, that was there at 6 o'clock in the morning to see the sunrise, were not dependent on me, they were dependent on him. And so as a result, I know that now, because I've started to meet my tribe in various different parts of the world. So the reason why I'm giving this as an example, because my actual father taught me so much about the parameters. You know, don't go beyond this. But what I've now realized through Christ in God is that in my Father in heaven, who I can't see but I believe, I've come to realize that true freedom is found in obedience. True freedom is found in obedience, because it's for my own freedom that my Father set these boundaries to protect me. Do you know what I mean? To protect me from harm. Now,
Yes,
it doesn't mean that
freedom and protection can't go along.
Huh?
This is what can't happen. If you want the protection and security, you can't be free. That's
what you think, but
Yeah.
I can't expect you to agree with what I'm saying. I mean, today's not about proving God.
Yeah,
I'm
okay,
only expressing my experience. My experience, I can disagree with you because my experience actually proves that that's wrong. Because I've actually experienced something through faith in something that I cannot see, which has shown me a greater freedom in obedience than outside of that. Does that make sense? Now that's a conversation entirely separate, but yeah, it comes back to the idea of serving. It's like, you know, you can't see the joy in serving unless you persevere through trial. It's like, unless I have faith in what I believe and the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, then I can't endure through difficult times. I can't go through difficult experiences, because if I don't have a belief that what I'm going through it for is bringing a greater reward, then I can't endure it. But what I've come to realize through faith in God is that as I've endured through the testing of life, I see the fruit of why it's important to have discipline, to walk in obedience and not, you know, like basically we're talking about efficiency. You know, there are many roads you can take, but there's one road to be efficient. Yeah, this is what I've discovered. Like, I'm sailing through life and I'm becoming really, really efficient, even in the way I speak. You know, I could only move at one point, but now I can speak what I move. Do you know what I mean? Because I realized I found who I was in movement. I found my identity. I found how to be 100% in who I am. And then I realized, now it's my responsibility to speak the way the world can understand, because not everyone can understand movement. A lot of these guys, they can see you move, but if you want them to come into your world, it can't happen just by saying, hey, try and do this and do that, because they're not motivated by this, you know what I mean? So you have to be able to meet people where they are. That's why I've developed a way to speak efficiently with words and directly to the heart and bypass all the things that get in the way, all the obstacles that get in the way. I'm efficient with love because I've attached my heart and how I move through life with my purpose and my reason for doing so. Does that make sense? So yeah, I don't know if that, but yeah, I don't know where that came from, but yeah, I don't know. That for me, you know, that true freedom is found in that obedience to the cause, to the, you know, when you look at Maximus out of Gladiator, you know, he was obedient to death. You know what I mean? He knew he was going to die. He had already embraced that he was going to die. You know what I mean?
And now we are free.
Yeah, and that's freedom. You know what I mean? You know, the guy didn't choose this. You know, he chose to die. You know what I mean? It's the same with Christ. You know, like, he chose to die on the cross. It wasn't the other way around. It wasn't like, oh no, they've got me. Oh no, what am I going to do? No, he chose. He died for that reason, to give, so that we could have life. Do you know what I mean? So that through him and looking at him, we could remind ourselves of who we were always supposed to be. Do you see what I'm trying to say? So it's imitating Christ. So it's, as you see him, as you set your mind on him, you remind yourself of your original state, completely selfless, completely about other people, loving. Do you know what I mean? So when I meditate on Christ, it reminds me of who I am, because sometimes I can get so distracted by the world that I forget who I am. So when I think about that, I'm reconnected in the love and the heart of why he died, and I'm back in the game. Do you know what I mean? I'm in the matrix, but I'm out of the matrix. You know what I mean? I'm living conscious of eternity. I'm not restricted by time. Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, it's cool.
Great.
Yeah.
So, about that circle, you obviously ventured beyond the circle. What did you find?
You see, it's not like, it's a different type. It's a different type. We're talking about a different type of freedom. You see, my dad set that boundary so that I wouldn't go beyond it, because there was danger in the world. Yeah. But we're not talking about physical danger when we're talking about God. We're talking about spiritual danger. We're talking about the fact that you choose what you allow to come into you and what comes out of you. Yeah. Every single person back in the ancient times, yeah. This is how you know where we are in civilization today. In the ancient times, civilizations had giant siege walls around the city so that the king could choose what comes in and what goes out, and they could protect it from nations that were trying to destroy in darkness, yeah? But the reality is that when we look at the nations today, there are no walls around the cities. It's like a prostituted city. Things come and things go out and in and out, and it's just blah, 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 you know what I mean? And so now it's become so personal that actually the city is inside of you. The city is inside of you. And you choose what, you stand at the gate and choose what comes in of you, inside of you, and what comes out. Yeah? But the reality, my question is, and this is this is the realization I've come to, who's the king of your city? But then how do you determine what is right and wrong if you're only basing your decisions off your experience of life thus far? Do you see what I'm trying to say? I can't trust myself. That's why my eyes are set on Christ. You see, my righteousness, me being righteous, is not because of my works. It's not because of who I am. It's because of what Jesus did on the cross. So I'm a righteous person. Do you know what I mean? Like, even though I continue to make wrong decisions, and I still make bad decisions, say bad things, and I can swear, but I'm just being real. Fuck shit, blah blah blah. I don't care. Do you know what I mean? You can't. No one can judge me. Only God judges me, and He didn't judge me. He chose to forgive me through Christ. Do you see what I'm saying? So as soon as I've accepted Christ, I'm instantly righteous. It's not based on my performance. It's based on Him. Do you know what I mean? So what I'm saying is that I've come to by having Christ as the King. You see, whether it's even Christ or despite religion or any of these things, the reality is we all worship something. The question is, what do you worship? You know what I mean? What do you worship? Do you know what I mean? Some people worship money, some people worship like sex or whatever, or some people worship drugs, I know, some people worship flipping all sorts of things, do you know what I mean? And so for me, like, yeah, I don't know, I think, when I speak of worship, let me just try and describe it in a better way. For me, worship is just being honestly expressive. When you see children, they're being honestly expressive. You see the kingdom of God in children. When you see them, you just instantly smile, yeah? So when I move and I do parkour, when I'm dancing, even dance, it's a form of worship, you know what I mean? So when I move, when I express, it's my way of expression to the Creator.
I don't get it, because
You know, I mean,
worshipping is one thing, honestly expressing is another.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay, maybe it is, but then at the same time, it's okay, because maybe I put two words together that shouldn't be put together, but
okay.
yeah, maybe that's what it is, I don't know. But yeah, what I'm saying is that, like, what was the question again?
What did you find beyond the circle?
Huh? Beyond the circle. So that's what I'm saying is that, like, yeah, the battles is the protection is from what you put inside of you, what comes inside of you, and what comes out of you. Do you know what I mean? And so, like, the wisdom that I've received has come through having my eyes set on God. Do you know what I mean? And so through, I mean, that's, yeah, again, it's opening a whole new kind of worms that could go into an even deeper conversation, which could take us other places. But I feel like that's the way I described it. My dad set limits and boundaries for my own protection. Yeah, I crossed it, and it was fun. I flipping loved it. But I think what separates men and women from children is people that know the importance of discipline in their life. You know what I mean?
So do you think that you as a child shouldn't have crossed this ring that said you shouldn't cross?
No, because it was experience. Yeah, I loved it.
Well, that's he gave you a restriction, you didn't obey the restriction, and you had so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
So why is the restriction a good thing?
Because it's actually about being efficient with what you do in your life. You see, there are many roads that I can take, and I can experience a lot of things. Yeah. But the thing is the more I continue to just experience things, it can hack away at me depending on my knowledge of God. Do you know what I mean? So, I'm about efficiency. As a man, I've come to realize, not a child. As a man, I want to be efficient. Because when I was a kid, I wasn't thinking about trying to explain to people. When people were asking me to explain the reasons for my behaviour, I didn't understand it. Why should I be expected for me to explain how I feel to you? Or why I'm...
Well, I think it's a good thing. I mean, the Spartan training put kids in like extreme situations, and the kid in this extreme situation can only grow stronger once he's a man. And those like Spartan guys, they're like the I don't know, the best thing that I don't know any kind of society ever had, because it really, I don't know, took them to another level of a human being. Just because they experienced so much danger, that Yeah, physically, but I
Physically, yeah, I agree, physically. But I completely disagree spiritually. Because we're talking about physical and non-physical. That's the touchy subject of today's world, is because we live in such a physical world. It's very touchy when anyone starts talking about the spiritual aspect of things, because there are so many opinions, so many different views. The beautiful thing is I can say whatever I want, and it's okay, because I'm completely protected by knowing that it's not about what I say. I'm just a child. I mean, I'm just expressing how I feel. You see, I remember looking at interviews of me back when I was 19, saying things that I completely disagree with now. Yeah, but you know what? I look at myself and I see a guy who's not afraid to express himself honestly and express exactly how he feels. That is beautiful. That is childlike. Yeah. And as I've gone through my years, I've developed wisdom and understanding as to how to be more efficient with words and how to take different angles on and approaches as to how to explain what I already knew was true then, but struggled with words. Now, if you want to step into your calling and to be great in something, you must first be open and expressive to sounding like crap when you're playing a piano. Everyone wants to be good at playing a piano, but no one wants to be seen making mistakes. Yeah. But the beautiful thing about kids is that there's no mistake in their experience. It's experience. It's expression. It's not like, am I doing this right? Do people like me? They're not even aware of how they look. They look at each other, and everyone is equal. Black, white, Asian, whatever. Everyone is just equal. I mean, even Jesus said, he was just voicing out loud. He said, "Thank you, God, that you hid these things from the learned and the wise, meaning adults, and you revealed the mystery of the kingdom of heaven to little children." Yeah, so everything I'm talking about is pointing back to our original state, as you see when you look at children and instantly smile. You know what I mean? I'm talking like a childlike mentality, but what makes me different is the wisdom and understanding of free will. Free will is what we're talking about today. You see, everything in this planet, every animal, everything that is created that has a heartbeat, lives with integrity. We are the only species or thing on the planet that can choose to disobey the integrity of what we were created to do. Yeah, that's free will. Yeah, so I can, you see freedom in going beyond free will and going beyond the integrity of what you were created to do and doing whatever you want. For me, true freedom comes from doing what you were created to do. Yeah. For me, true freedom comes because I believe that we were created in God's image to co-create alongside Him. We are created to create. That's the God in us. We're like a father would want to have a child. Someone, like anyone would want to have a child. Something that looks like you, that talks like you, that breathes like you. Something you can look at and constantly love. For me, this is the love of the Father that's expressed through Jesus. Yeah. The love that He has for us expresses the love of God for us. Yeah. So for me, the whole idea behind free will is that I've come to understand that even for instance, look at the film Avatar. Yeah. Yeah. Look at the human race. Look at the Avatar Na'vi people. Yeah. They've destroyed their planet. These guys haven't, because they're integral. They respect everything. They realize that they have to look after the world they've been given, and there's a connection to the spiritual world. Yeah. Whereas the humans have completely, it's all about self, and it's all about pushing the boundaries and going beyond integrity and trying to be like God themselves. And as a result of that, they are destroying another world. Do you know what I mean? You see, the thing is with the human race, and in the Bible, they talk about the fall of man. Now, we've all heard the story of Adam and Eve. Now, it doesn't mean that it actually happened with an apple, but the story itself, what it represents is something like this, that in the beginning, we were created in the image of God. Yeah? Okay. And when we fell from God, it happened because we were deceived into believing a lie over the truth. We all hear of Satan or the snake or whatever, the serpent, yeah? The snake convinced Adam and Eve, yeah, that they wouldn't be like God until they ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Yeah? So they were deceived into believing they would not be like God until they ate from that tree. So the moment they believed that lie, they were separated from God. God didn't separate Himself from us. We separated ourselves from Him. Does that make sense? Yeah? So the reality was, we were gods. You know what I mean? We were gods. We were living eternal beings on earth. Do you know what I mean? Or even whether it's eternal, even the body may die, but it's completely beyond the reality of it. The truth is, Avatar is a great way of expressing the Garden of Eden to a certain degree. Do you know what I mean? We can all kind of relate to it. That's why it's one of the biggest films of all time, because the human race can relate to it. You know what I mean? The connection between the spiritual and the physical. Yeah. But where I can connect the dots between God and Christ and who we are as human beings in the film Avatar is the film Avatar in itself, from a human earthly perspective, not Pandora, a human earthly perspective. Yeah. We're all like Jake Sully. We're all like Jake Sully. We can relate to Jake Sully. Yeah. I'm gonna tell you what the story is about. The story is about a guy who meets God, yeah, and then steps into his new body, steps into his new life. It's called baptism. Yeah. So when I get baptized, I die to self and I rise again in Christ. So I'm a new creation. Does that make sense? So in the film Avatar, you've got a guy with broken legs, representative of our brokenness. Yeah. From the fall of man, from the separation, we've been trying to get back to that estate ever since we fell. But we've always been trying to get back to it via our own means and not humbling ourselves before the one who created us, yeah? So we've always been trying to be seen as equal to God, and as a result of that, that's why we're never able to reach it, because we're trying to get there via our own strength, yeah? And that's why Jesus came and says it's by grace that we were set free, not from ourselves, but that it was a gift from God, so that no one can boast, yeah? So in the story Avatar, you got a guy, broken legs, yeah? Gets given this second chance. You know, gets to step into his brother's shoes, so to speak. Words from the movie. So he gets to experience this new life. He tastes this new life, yeah. And so he steps into this body, and he starts to learn about this Na'vi tribe, yeah. But then at the same time, the devil's there, the guy with the grey hair, yeah. And he says to him, if you tell me the plans of their home tree, then I'll give you your legs back. False promises. That's all the enemy can do. The devil can only use everything. You see, there's a cavern in our hearts that only God can fill. And that's why so many people fall to drug addiction. That's so many people fall to alcohol, whether it's money, lust for the flesh. It's because we're trying to fill something that only God can fill. But what religion is everything that came after the honest expression of something. The definitions. This is parkour. No, this is free running. Blah, 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 blah. No, this is how it's done. This is how it's practiced. This is what parkour is. This is how you move. Okay, now we create temples where people can come and worship movements. I love parkour. You know, it's a temple. You know, how is it any different than the ancient times? We go into a building, we idolize movement, we worship movement. Yeah, I love parkour. But we always fail to miss the mark in worshipping the one who created all things. We have a tendency to worship the created things, but not the one who created it. Do you know what I mean? So for me, I acknowledge that when I come here, yes, I use movement as a way to relate with people, to speak on a human level, yeah? But I come with my experience in my journey, in my heart, to express something beyond the movement, beyond what you can see. That's my intention, that's my reason for moving around the world. That's why I'm constantly moving. We're going to Croatia, we're going to Egypt. After Egypt, we're touring from England straight through to Italy. We're stopping off at different nations on the way. Because the reality is that once you've had an encounter with the creator of the universe, your whole flipping life changes, man. And it says that faith expresses itself in love. You see, the problem with religion over the past 2,000 years is they've been trying to make people understand God with words. Read your Bible, do this, do that. Don't do this, that's a sin, this is wrong, this is right. Rather than actually loving people in the way that Christ loved them. You see, the only people that Jesus got mad at thousands of years ago was the religious leaders of the day. And he hung around with the prostitutes, he hung around with the poor people, he hung around with the sinners, do you know what I mean? They were his flipping homies, you know what I mean? They're the people he flipping hung around with. The only people he got angry at were the religious leaders. And then somehow we've misunderstood what he came to do, what the disciples shared as a result of starting the early church. About climbing mountains, the joy is in the hard work. The joy is in the hard work. We're the first generation of people on this planet that enjoy overcoming obstacles. Do you know that? There's no one else in society that enjoys overcoming problems and looks at problems with sheer joy. Like, this is going to be flipping amazing, let's do this.
Programmers do.
Huh?
Programmers do.
Well, that's okay. That's parkour as well. You call it program. I call it parkour. I say football's parkour, depending on the way you play.
Well, that's not what the
I think
definition
Messi
says.
does parkour. Yeah. When you see the glimpses of that honest expression, say that's parkour. You see, we always have a tendency we're always trying to define something that's undefinable. Yeah. The moment you try and put it in a box and describe it, it's already out your box. It's translated into something else. It's become something else. Before it was called parkour, it was called kung fu. And before David was around, his name was Bruce Lee. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? We always have a way of trying to create words for something that is beyond your words, because as soon as you try and describe it, it's gone. You know what? Kids are the only human beings that don't get why they have to stop to take a picture. Do you know what I mean by that? Son, hold still. Son, hold still. You know what I mean? They don't get what the adult's perspective of hold still, I want to capture this moment. Because the human, as an elder, is thinking in the perspective of time, whereas a child is not conscious of time. They're not thinking of a beginning and an end. They're 100% present. So when you ask a child to stay still for a picture, it makes no sense to him, because he's not thinking in a perspective of time. He's limitless. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but he has food. He has to drink. His parents give it to him. You know, parents are the one who have to think.
God provides food for us as well.
Well,
But you can't know that until you have faith.
Okay, then tell that to Ethiopia children who are dying. You know.
Yeah, but
it's like,
that's a choice you've been given to do something about it. What are you doing about it?
Yeah, I don't want to do anything about it for now.
Okay, then you have no power.
Yeah, okay, but I'm just saying, like, children are careless because they can be.
So you're saying you can't just be free, free as a child?
Yeah, you can. Just what I'm saying is that adults have more to think about. They have more stuff to think about and more stuff to do. They can't be fully free, and that's how it's supposed.
I disagree. Do you know why? Because I'm a living example, my friend.
Yeah, but you're an how to say that? Izuzetak, yeah, you're exception, and exceptions are always.
So you're separating me from everyone else?
No.
Yes.
No.
You're separating me from everyone in this group.
Yeah, like you're an exception in the things, in the certain things, you know.
How can you imagine that makes me feel if I wasn't believing in God and I was trying to impart wisdom and impart knowledge from my life experience? How would that make me feel if my identity wasn't confirmed in Him and Him alone?
I don't know, but what you're saying is that everyone can do what you do.
You know, so many people fall into a state of depression because so many people idolize who they are as being the author of what they say. They fall into depression because it came so easy for them to translate and to say what they said, or to express what they expressed in a book, or how they created a movie, or how they made a song, because people idolize the person and not what came through them. You see, the reality is that my identity is not attached to what I do, because my identity is affirmed in who I am in God. So I can say whatever, I can be like, and it doesn't matter because I'm a child of God. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not.
You see what I'm saying?
I'm not denying that. That's.
No, I'm not taking it personally. But what I'm saying is that if I was someone who didn't believe in God, then how would I receive that? Do you know what I mean? How would I receive that? Because I've never wanted to be seen different than anyone else. I've never wanted to go into a playground when I was a kid, yeah, and be seen as being different than anyone else. Do you know what I mean? See, that was the problem. One of the things that made me feel like I was alone is because people would look at me different than other people, yeah, and that kind of sucked, because I actually just wanted to play with everyone. I wanted to have fun with everyone. You know, I looked at everyone the way I saw myself. Do you know what I mean? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you don't get my point. Is that not everyone gets the same opportunities, and not everyone has the same.
Oh, of course not. Yeah, no,
you know,
everyone has the same
and some,
start.
for example, you had the opportunity and you
Isn't that
grabbed
why
it.
we're having this conversation today?
What?
Isn't that why we're having this conversation today?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You're an exception because
you're
you
talking
do.
about a past tense thing. I'm talking about something that is presently relevant right now, that can actually bring people into that perspective. So right now, because of what you're saying, it becomes about self, whereas everything I'm saying is not self. It's actually from something else. You see what I'm saying? I'm not being self in what I'm saying. I'm speaking on behalf of something greater. See, you getting your point across stops the flow of everything and prevents people from becoming more efficient to gaining access to the very thing that you say a lot of people don't have. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Not quite.
Me neither.
Okay.
Because
The main thing before all of this talk is supposed to be the question, who are you? Okay, the day you try to get into that, afterwards everything else becomes so much easier. And in serving one another, we become free. But yeah, it takes get there.
It's very cool. Amazing. Cool. Awesome. That was really interesting.
Next question.
Do you think your father might have wanted you to cross that circle?
No.
Let's leave the circle.
No.
The circle alone.
Actually, two questions. They're kind of related, but first question is actually for Danny and Andy.
Yeah, because a lot of people.
Sorry. Earlier you were talking about competition, but not parkour competition. You said like a competition is cool if it's friendly. Let's say friendly in a circle of friends, yeah, and family, which is kind of okay. But the question is, what do you think about competition and parkour?
I think it's pretty cool. I mean, it's less about what I think about competition and more what I fucking feel weird holding the stick. Hello! I'm Noah. Amazing. It's hilarious. Yeah.
I'm giving you the
I've got a lot to say on this.
Right, I'm gonna split the sea. You ready, guys?
I'm looking for him.
Okay. So Andy said he has a lot to say on this, so I'll let Andy.
No, you go first.
Okay. What was the question?
Competition.
Competition. Competition is beautiful, really, really beautiful. But when you're around people that misinterpret it because they're viewing it physically and they don't see the honest expression of what it is on the inside, that's when you're misleading people into believing that it's about the movement and not why you move. You see? See what I'm saying? Everyone is responsible for the environment that they create. What it does is when you create an environment and you put too much of an emphasis on the physical and the reward of the physical end, you raise up a generation of young people who are only thinking about what they can get from the movement rather than what they can have in the movement right here, right now. Yeah? Does that make sense? Yeah?
More or less, yeah.
Yeah, more or less.
Can I just?
I'm not sure.
No, like I just want to come back to you. That makes sense, but I think his question was the competition in parkour exactly, because yeah, that is totally fine and that is quite logical, but the way people see it, and you said it, like people see it differently, and now the problem begins there, how everyone sees it and how it the majority in the end makes the.
It's the past, though, isn't it?
It's not.
My mind's not set on those things. I'm not set on what the problem is right now. I'm already adapting to what's coming next.
You're learning from the past.
You see, no, because you see, there was a wave and it was called parkour, and I got off that wave before it reached the top. Because I learned something through a fear of God. Yeah, the fear of God leads to wisdom. What I realized being on the top of that wave is I could see the shore. I took a leap of faith when I jumped in the ocean. Then all of a sudden I experienced this wave called life, and it happened to be parkour at the time. So I'm riding this wave, I'm at the top because I was there when it happened. That's the only thing that makes me a lot different than anyone else. It's because I was there when it happened. That's it. That's all it is. You know, people look at me and say, you flow very well, you do this, you can do that really, really good. It's only because I was there when it started. That's why Tim Sheep is a known name. That's why Phil Doyle. That's why all these guys are really well known name, because they were there when it started. They're not any more significant than anyone else. They don't have a better start. They're not just built differently. No, they were just there when the wave started. Yeah? All right, so let's just take that for a moment. So I'm riding this wave. I'm like, just being in the ocean was awesome for me. I was like, this is amazing. I jumped into the ocean. This is great. And then the wave starts. I'm like, woo! I'm riding the wave. I'm like, this is great. Hey, guys. Hello, Tim. Hello, guys. Nice to meet you. I'm Daniel. This wave is great, isn't it? Sorry. So riding this wave, and then I'm like, wait, like, okay, guys, like, I can see the shore, and everyone's like, woo! And I'm like, okay, the shore is over there. The sand is there. Maybe we should get off, like, and everyone's like, woo! And then I start to see people make it about this moment and not just about being in the water. Being in the water is actually the best part. But now people's minds change from just being in the water being awesome to now, oh, it's about riding the wave. So I was like, nah, I'm not into this. So I come off the wave. And then the wave is still going, and whoever's left in the scene, it's crashing against the shore because they're trying to ride what's left of the wave. You know what I mean? That's why everyone's saying, where's the lost spirit of parkour? Because they realize something's missing. But that's why we also realised that. Sorry, mate, you want to answer?
No, go on. I'm going to agree.
That's why prophetically spoken, if you have eyes, you'll see. If you have ears, you'll understand. That's why the new video is called The Return of the Joy. Because we're stepping into a new season and there's a new wave coming. And that new wave is bigger than anything we've ever experienced. This little wave called parkour is that big. The wave that's coming, it's massive. It's massive.